Uh, Aditi was to have performed, as Brian said, a whole evening of Kathak dance, a solo evening, on April 18th at World Music Institute's annual Dancing the Gods Festival of Indian Dance. We were so excited to have her back, for though she performs often with her Aditi Mangaldas dance company in the United Kingdom and Europe, and of course in India and the rest of Asia, she's not been back in the US since she performed at the Asia Society in 2005 in a program organized by Rachel Cooper and myself. Perhaps you want to highlight me. I just see the black sign of Brian Kaya. Do you want to, whoever's running it, can you put me in the center screen?
You should be when it's visible.
No, what I see is Brian Kaya. I see your name in black. Anyway, that's up to you. The program Aditi was going to present, but it's going to be a problem when I try to bring up the video, because it's got your behind it. The program Aditi was going to present was a solo program called Immersed. And we'll begin our chat by talking about this, but first, let me introduce you to Aditi Mangaldas, exponent of the North Indian dance form Kathak. As she herself puts it, someone who's considered a maverick in India because she has consistently broken ground, unafraid to confront social and present-day concerns in her work and in her life. Hi, Aditi.
Hi, Rajika. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Rajika. Thank you, Gabi. Thank you, Kate, for having me here. It's wonderful to be on this platform of the World Music Institute. And though I'm not dancing live, thank you so much for having me today. And thank you, Rajika. I've been a long time fan of yours. And it's wonderful that you have agreed to have this conversation with me. And thank you, and it's wonderful being here. And thank you all you participants. I can't see you, but it's wonderful that you're here from, I believe that you're here from different parts of the world. And I think today that is really important, to reach out and touch, even if virtually. So lovely to be here. Thank you, Rajika.
Well, this is not the first time I've had a hand in presenting you in a festival. The first was Anita Ratnam and Arangam's Text and Textures Festival, in which I played Sutradhar in one of her productions, and it included text. I was reading A.K. Ramanujan's poetry while Gitanjali Kulanad and Anita were dancing. And we were looking for some festival to put this round as a festival, typical of Anita. People didn't have that many festivals in India, 1994. And she said, let's call it Text and Textures. And she was talking to the designer. And I said, you know, Aditi did something on a text. Oriana Fallaci, the Italian journalist author, had written a novel, said, Letter to a Child Never Born. And she had Shubha Mutkal's music, I think, to this. Yes. And I just was struck, and immediately a rotary phone was brought in. It was 94. And I rang up Aditi. She happened to be home, and she said, yes, I'll just get on a train and come with my dancers. And so that was the first time. The second time was when you came, actually, this is not your first time that you were going to be in New York. In 2005, again, you wrote to say, oh, I'm going to be in Amsterdam, etc. I said, well, with your company, yes. Why didn't you tell me? What do you mean tell me? I may go to Texas, I may not. I said, rang up Rachel Cooper. I said, this girl and her company, we have to bring them. I don't know where these instincts came in, because I only became curator presenter much later. I was still very much dancing myself. And you came, not only did you dance for 3 nights with your company at Asia Society, but Rachel got you into the very first extraordinary festival worldwide, City Center's Fall for Dance, where people come in from all over America to see the best companies, from Martha Graham, all the ballet companies, to Merce Cunningham. And guess who was performing in the opening concert? So this is the third time that I've had the opportunity and the luck to be able to lure you into a festival I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Rajika.
So tell me, when I said, because we couldn't afford the whole company, I think, I also thought it'd be nice. Our festival tends to do Margam, which is just one dancer dancing their tradition, if that tradition is a solo tradition, which Kathak is not completely, but there is such a thing as one person can do a whole evening. Tell me something about the Immersed and the fact that it is one of your very few solo, right?
No, it's one of my many solos, and Kathak has a Margam. Kathak is actually initially was only a solo form. But let's go back to Immersed. So Immersed is about Krishna. Now, would you like me to talk a little bit about Immersed?
Yes.
Is that,
How you know your relationship to Krishna? So just behind you, as you said yesterday when we saw this screen, is a pichwai, which
Yes.
is a presentation of Nath, Lord, and the door of the Lord, which is the big temple in Gujarat, and you're Gujarati, not far north from where you are. And Nath Dwara is a place of pilgrimage because it is Krishna. That Nath is Krishna. You see him with the cows. But it's not as a bhakt that you approach him, because you see him. Tell us.
For me, Krishna, I'm not a Hindu. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Christian. I don't find my spirituality within an organized religion or a philosophy. Yet one cannot deny the inspiring, how the philosophy and the persona of Krishna has inspired music, dance, literature, poetry, music, sculpture, painting, architecture for centuries. For me, how do I enter this world of Krishna? Growing up, I grew up in a Vaishnav household. And in fact, there was a very elaborate, huge, big temple in our home. And my paternal grandmother, I grew up listening to the reverberation of the aarti, to the fragrance of the jasmine and the mogra flowers, the agarbatti or the incense, the many bhogs or the prasad, the offerings to the deity, the costume design, as I used to say, because there were many costume changes. I grew up with that. And one of my...
And these are costume changes of the Lord himself.
Of God, yeah, of the idol. Costume changes, because for every festival and every little day, and there were little costumes that were made, and the god was adorned with them and adorned with a different kind of a mukut. So this was in my home, and I grew up with it. And one of my lasting memories is of my paternal grandmother on her deathbed. I was 6 years old. And the idol, she couldn't go to the temple. So the idol from the temple, which was next to her room, was brought to her. And with her shaking hands, she tried to do pranam. That's a memory, an image that has lasted all
and
these years.
How does it reflect itself in Immersed? We
I'll
haven't shown Immersed. I thought we'll show it.
I'll tell you how it reflects, because over the years, I thought, how did this little body, a murti, which a statue, a marble statue, become transformed into the universe to her? So for me, Krishna is an amazing reservoir of imagination. And with this reservoir of imagination, male can become female and female male. The human can become an animal, half animal, back to the human. There can be, the inanimate can become the animate and back. The cowherd can become the charioteer, can become the lover, can become the great king, can even become God. So my entry into the world of Krishna is the thought of this Krishna being as a vast reservoir of imagination. And to me, life reflects this imagination. So I say, Krishna, you are life. And if you are life, you are breath. And if you are breath, I appeal to you, always be at the edge of my being. Savare, chelare, nain ki, ot na jao. If you are life, I want you to surround me. Aage Krishna, pache Krishna, ita Krishna, uta Krishna, jit dekho, tita Krishna mai. If you are life, then so are you death. So as life, engulf me, as death, embrace me. So my entry into Immersed is not as a bhakt, but as a bhakt of life, as somebody who's always in wonder, as a young child is, as to this enormity, this amazing beauty of life itself.
You know, now it would be lovely to see a little bit of the work, and bear with me because I have to bring up a screen so that I can share the video with you. But apart from that, I want to see, after we've seen it, we've spent just a little time because we need to talk about other things, is just how what we see connects, makes you realize what it was you think you were trying to get across at that time, okay? So I'm going to do, I think it is share screen and share.
No, yeah.
And then file, view full screen. And I have to do one other thing. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see it, right? So I can shift to the fifth video.
Yes.
Wow, you would have have eaten up the stage. There'd have been no symphony space. It would have been burnt down with energy. Yes, we have to do this.
You're always kind, Rajika. Too
No,
generous.
no, 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 no. I love dance and I love good dance. It's not that the younger people don't, but I don't enjoy them. But when you see somebody who's really superb, good ballet, flamenco, Alvin Ailey, I mean, something happens to us, you know, the body feels it. And even on virtual. But I mean, can you imagine? What I meant was, if you're actually in the audience when something like this has happened, I say it's a punch. So thank you. So should we move on to the second piece that you were doing, unless you wanted to say something about this?
No, I think it's a small little extract of Immersed. To all the audience, I mean, people, friends of mine, and who are here from India, it was an interrupted viewing, which is really interesting because one of my last productions in terms of group work was what I called interrupted. But we come back to that later.
No, we can talk about it now. I think, this is a solo performance, but you also have the Aditi Mangaldas Dance Company, which I discovered last night when I was asking you, was established initially with under a different foundation name, but in 92 or 91 or something like that. You know? So
well, it was registered in 1991, but I mean, you know, these are really big names. Drishtikon Dance Foundation, Aditi Mangaldas Dance Company, but there was mostly just me and one musician. And then it became one dancer and the musician left. So it was big, really dreams, I think. That's how the company started. Want to do something, immersion, passion, abandon, and dreams. Rather than actual people and actual dancers, that came much later. But yes, it was 91 that we registered it.
And also, I mean, now you perform, one of the reasons there are people from all over the world listening in, depending on their own times, because, you know, in California, they started at 9 in the morning. And a lot of us dancers are teaching Zoom calls to kids and things like that. But I do know that you have danced Immersed itself. In fact, you dance all over the world. And I know that people keep showing off to me, oh, I'm in the same, I'm going to be doing a small piece in a festival that Akram Khan has promoted at Sadler's Wells. You go to, you know, there are so many places, festivals in England where you teach with your guru. And I think I'd forgotten, I was supposed to tell you that I first heard about you when you came, having left Kumudini Lakhia, your great, great guru, one of the giants of Indian dance, who in 62 was trying to find a contemporary place, because all this talking about temples is all very well. We were not dancing in temples. So Kumiben was your first guru. And then I remember she had just said to you, well, if you want to go to learn with somebody else, off you go from Ahmedabad, and you came to Delhi to study with Birju Maharaj. So I think just a minute to talk about your gurus.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate and really lucky to have actually these two legends as my gurus. And it's wonderful because one says Kathak without Krishna, and the other says Kathak is Krishna. So these seemingly two different perspectives strangely have an amazing connection between them. And later on in years, when I'm looking back, that connection I feel is about this great ability of observation and transformation. So it's not observation and imitation, it's observation and transformation. For me, to learn from these two great gurus is like having a telescopic sight and a microscopic sight. You know, with Kumi Ben, it was this little body, and I've said it often enough, in connection to the world, horizontal collections. The word, the alphabet becomes the word, becomes the part of a sentence in a poem, becomes the poetry, and becomes a great epic. So that way, these like octopus with its 8 brains, you know, it's like tentacles that are going out, a connection that is horizontal. With my guru, Pandit Birju Maharaj Ji, the approach was something that was a vertical exploration, where it didn't matter what was in which space you were. It was the center of your body to every little bit of the body, to let the breath go to the tiniest, most minute cell in your body. So you are not, it doesn't matter where you are, but you go, the observation becomes deeper and deeper, and where the heart and the mind become one. So it's this complete immersion. I have to mention that there is a BBC documentary I saw when I was really young, must have been 8 or 9 years old, in which there's a fly on the hand. The camera goes onto the sting of the fly, if that's the right word, goes into the skin, into the artery, into the blood, into the red blood cell, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper to the minutest atom, or breaks up even that. And then the camera zooms out to the fly, to the hand, to the person, to the room, to the city, to the country, to the world, to the universe. And so this exploration, which is inward and outward, I'm really lucky to have got that from both my gurus. To be able to see whether it is possible to look at the space and time within you as you look at space and time outside of you. And the same thing with emotions or a thought or whatever. So I'm really, really, really grateful. But I have to mention that my other guru is my amazing family, because I have really learned a lot from them, and their openness and their fact that they encourage debate, they encourage discussion. Of course, the greatest guru of all is life.
But you know, because it's amazing. We could go on for hours with this, but as always, I knew that we would start by the time we started, had the introductions. We'd already lost 10 of our 45 minutes. And so we are down now to about another 10 minutes that we can talk. And I really would like to ask you about Interrupted, because your choreography, which is something that is not a typically Indian, we use the word choreography, but choreography, which is such a complex thing, is something that you absolutely are one of the few people in India who really excel at. Very, very sophisticated choreography. And not simply because you've had dramaturgs and people, you can see multiple. So can you say something about Interrupted, or should I show it first?
I can talk about it and you can show it later, however you like. You know, as I've always said, there are two parts of my exploration. One is Kathak, and one is what I say, contemporary work based on Kathak, contemporary dance based on Kathak, which means it's not about deconstruction, it's not about fusion of adding apple tree onto, grafting apple tree onto a whatever, pear tree. It's about absorption. So here we plant a seed, Kathak seed. I have learned Kathak, dance Kathak. My students are Kathak. My dance company has Kathak. So we plant this Kathak seed. And when you water it with the extended Kathak repertoire, a Kathak tree grows out of it. But if you water that Kathak seed with contemporary sensibilities, then what grows out of that has a different movement, vocabulary of the mind, of the heart, and the body. All my work starts from an autobiographical peg, but I hope that in the past few years, I hope that the autobiographical peg, the small story, because my life is a small story, somehow during the journey opens out onto a more universal concept. So the geography and history of the person or of Kathak, the work is informed by it, but not defined by it and not bogged down by it. Interrupted emerges from the body. It's about the fragility of the body. It's about the disintegration of the skin, the muscle, the bone, the emotions, the mind. And at the same time, its immense capacity of renewal, of rejuvenating itself. So it was a very interesting time for me, because I was facing this constant disintegration myself. I mean, I'm lucky that the disintegration happened and I was able to reach a certain age, but it is happening with us, I think, as soon as we turn 21, and that was like 40 years ago. So it's a look at the fragility of the body and how we try to hold on to something, some image of the body that we cannot hold on to. And it was one of the few times that, though I did a lot of preparation, I read and saw images and talked to hundreds and millions of people, I went onto the dance floor without any thought, because I wanted the movement that emerged out to be the movement of, say, 10th of June, 3 p.m. What is my body at that point? And what is the movement of the brain, mind, and heart?
Can we see a little thing of it?
Yes.
Yes. Because it takes me a little while to sort of share.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I chatted. Sorry.
No, you keep talking, and I'll just go into share and try to get my keynote up. And can you see it? Aditi Mangaldas Dance Company?
Yes, I can. Yeah. think it was truly interrupted. It was like the visual, interrupted, the sound is interrupted. Well, that's technology.
And very exciting. There's you watch something and you say this is so cutting edge, and then 2 seconds later you see this beautiful turn and this beautiful absolutely classical Kathak gesture. It's very, very exciting, because you're right, this is Kathak. It's just where Kathak is in 2020 or 2018 or whenever you did the work. When was it done?
We premiered it in 2016, I think. Yeah,
so just a few years ago. That's what I thought, because
yeah.
I saw you dance at the academy last year, but that you did an older piece. You did
No, that was Widening Circles.
Okay.
And that was premiered in, maybe around the same time, because that was a classical solo and this was a contemporary. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly. You saw me.
We have about 5 minutes. So before we go into questions from the audience, so I don't see too many questions. So I might just not, I might keep asking them myself. Should I be seeing more questions, Kate? Because I do see nothing except an aloha. And my friend Michael Brody, who's a wonderful Hindustani violinist and teaches and a wonderful human being, he was trying to warn me that I could, earlier on, that he couldn't see me. So we don't have to rush. But we are living in very, very strange times, as we all know. The very idea of being locked down. Some people who are used to solitude and who like it are actually finding themselves, nothing else is new, especially if they have a house in a backyard and a nice partner that they can see every now and then, so you're not alone. And then there are people like us, I think, who love people. And I spend most of my time trying to connect with them. So the question here is, your first reaction when this lockdown happened in Mumbai, in India, was to reach out to fellow artists who were not as comfortably off or in a position to be able to take this, to know what had hit them. And what led you to sort of want to make these 5 absolutely wonderful films for Raw Mango? Raw Mango is, can you tell us something about Raw Mango and Sanjay?
It's a design house which uses classical, traditional fabrics and beautiful work. So when the lockdown happened, actually my first instinct was to reach out, as I said, and touch, even if virtually. And I do believe that it was something that we were suddenly thrown into this isolation or confinement, and time became amorphous. There was no past, present, future, for me at least. And so I felt that Kathak itself had gone through such an interesting journey, from the temples to the courts to the kotas to the proscenium stage, and now to our living rooms. It's interesting to reimagine that rather than cut paste from what was 5 months ago and just dance it in my living room. So we started reaching out to people like the Rietberg Museum in Switzerland, to the World Music Institute in New York, to a theater in Delhi, and a design house in India. And that's when I thought, let's look at the work within that we premiered a couple of years ago, and look at what within means to us now within. So it's called Within from Within. And because right now our audiences are within us, our creativity is within us. We are opening out this within in various ways that we never knew before, and never dreamt about it before. So it's reimagining everything that you have known. You're suddenly confronted with the unknown. So, and I definitely am the worst photographer in the world. So first it was learning about camera and lights and positions and how to edit. And then, of course, I'm privileged to even have this conversation. So how do you reach out to many struggling artists who are today unable to support themselves? It's a terrible situation here in India, as I'm sure is all over the world. And we thought we would make these films like small offerings rather than an appeal. It's an artistic offering to fundraise. And that's how these 6 films came into being in collaboration with Raw Mango and Teamwork Arts, to whom the funds go directly.
Oh, Teamwork Arts as well. This is Sanjay Roy's.
Sanjay Roy's, yes,
Oh,
yes.
the man is, I mean, he is just another human.
Yes, he's wonderful. They started Art Matters on day 1, and so they have given us a separate link for these films. But I trust them, and I know that it will go to the really deserving artists. And unfortunately, there's been no actual proper policy decisions that have been made. And so individual artists are reaching out and crowdfunding. So the films.
Let's have a look at. I noticed that there are a few questions. I had not had opened the.
I think there are a number of questions. Yeah, I see the queue.
So let's first see the one that we were talking about. Again, you have to bear with me.
Yeah, it's going to be interrupted. I'm sorry, guys.
And yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Wrapped up in yourself, you hid from me. All day I looked for you. All day I looked for you. And when I found you, hiding inside me, I ran wild, playing now me, now you, now me, now you, now me, now you.
Wow. I'm going to ask a few of these questions. There are some amazing dancers, people whom you know. One question that came up right at the beginning is
Rajika, they've said louder, please. They can't hear you.
Well, I have my computer up to the top, so I don't know what to do with it. I'm on my internal computer and I have it at maximum. So can you hear me?
That's better, actually.
Okay. It's at maximum, but anyway. So somebody first asked what are some of the differences between Kathak style and Bharatanatyam, and I'll leave you to answer that.
Oh God, please don't. I think that's a very, very long answer, the difference between Kathak and Bharatanatyam. So I think it's very difficult to be able to define an entire style that has evolved over hundreds of years and is constantly evolving into a short something. And I think it's best to read about it, watch people, Bharatanatyam dancers, Kathak dancers, and it will reveal itself to you on your own.
You know, I'm going to say something that, you know, some people, for example, Rachel Cooper, the lovely Rachel Cooper who brought you here the first time. And she writes something that was typical of her. How did I have this wonderful opportunity to work with the most amazing artists? So I thought I'd let you know that that's what she's saying.
How wonderful, Rachel. It's been so many years. I'll never forget the time when we were on my balcony in Delhi and chatting with a bonfire. And thank you for inviting us.
And Priya says, good evening, Aditi Didi. I'd like to know your thoughts on the role of the state in art. Do you have any thoughts on what current moment we are in the world will do to the arts?
I think that question is in all our minds. I must say that unfortunately here, there hasn't been a sustained policy or even a thought given from the government or some of the big corporate houses towards the whole what is going to happen to the arts in India. I don't know what is going to survive in terms of what transformation is going to happen in terms of after or when and if we cross this bridge. I understand that there are many priorities right now with the government, with the big corporate houses, but I think till you think of art, you think it's not essential. But actually, it's essential for the survival of our humanity. And I think for that, I really pray that soon something happens, because here, some great artists who are not as privileged as me are struggling. And I ask myself, what dance, what art is going to remain with me? Of course, I mean, we've gone through the world wars, we've gone through the Bengal famine, we meaning as a human race, the Spanish flu, and art across that ocean, those turbulent times. But what it's going to be, where it's going to be, how we will explore it, I'm living in the moment right now. I'm sorry, we are all in the same boat together, and I don't have any answers that would satisfy you, I think.
There is also Hema Rajagopalan, the great Bharatanatyam dancer and choreographer, and who runs that extraordinary institution in the same town that actually Brian ended up at one point as artistic director of one of her students. So she's just had very quick questions. These could be just single ones. Did Interrupted have any word or lyrics?
Interrupted had no spoken words. We used two Savan Bita Jai, a traditional bandish, and a bandish by Kabir, Jhini Jhini, Jhini Re Chadariya. But it was layering. The music was layering on the dance. And so it was not, if I may say, an exploration of Jhini Jhini, the word, but the exploration of the entire feel. I would like to say that when we said Savan Bita Jai, the singer sings it, and I look around and I say, I find myself as a 20-year-old or a 15-year-old. So it's these resonances of suddenly there is a thought, and I look around and there's this young girl with her hair covered in front of her face. And those are these flashbacks that is pulling me back into kind of these memories that have constantly been flowing and interrupted. So yes, we did use these two, but not explanatory in terms of, they were sort of a texture, a layer.
You know, Aditi, yesterday you were talking about the fact that depending on one's Wi-Fi and where you were, things were breaking up. And there's this lovely person who's identified as Paige Else, who talks about, who kept asking, she's the one who wanted to know Bharatanatyam. And I suggest to you, Paige, that it's such a long story. It's like saying, what is the difference between tap dancing and ballet? You know, there's a lot, it's history, it's who brought it out, who does it, what it stands for. There's also something about, you know, what do you think, what do you feel about Bollywood, which I suspect is one of the problems with being a classical dancer, is that there are a lot of us that tend to look down on Hollywood. And I think just the other day when Saroj went, I thought, my God, what a choreographer.
No, I don't look. I think Bollywood is an amazing genre. They have created a genre in dance itself where they've taken from different places. I think, I don't think we need to worry about Bollywood taking any space. They have their own space, they have their own vitality, energy, and I think it's inspiring to see at some places how they have transformed certain dance forms, taking from here, there, and everywhere, and they're not apologetic about it. They've made it into their own genre, which is over the top, and it's wonderful.
The people who go and see films, you know, we are very, very privileged that we belong to an upper middle class society. We can buy 60 rupee tickets and get into a hall. I remember people in India coming up to Cottage Industries Emporium, a Rajasthani family. And I was going in, my mother used to work there, she was a designer. And he turned around to me and said, "Hum log ja sakte? We people can go." And I said, absolutely, it's the Cottage Industries Emporium. But you know, there are these feelings from people who come from a workman class or a little village in Rajasthan coming to big Delhi. So I think there is that we have to honor the fact that the extraordinary level of dancing that you can see in Bollywood, and
Absolutely.
that goes out to the whole world. And yesterday I was in a lecture in which somebody said a Nigerian boy who had this much space to dance on and was doing his tap thing, he turned around to Tyler Peck because he saw her on Instagram. She started something. She had 5,000 people the first day. She went like this. So she started to bring other people, Misty Copeland, etc., in. And in that process, this young boy's got a scholarship to come and study ballet in Chicago. So
amazing.
I mean, he jumped all the way from that little stone doing his little Bollywood number beautifully into something else. A good mover is a good mover. So I think this is
absolutely. I think there's good dance and bad dance, as you say, good mover and bad mover. And I don't, I think one should celebrate it.
Now, the only thing is that I'd like to answer some of you asking where they can see things like Interrupted. Most of the stuff is on YouTube. I don't know if there's Vimeo that you're putting up, but I could, Kate is willing to put up anything that you can offer onto the page. You can see those people that you know who may have missed this. And Preeti, thank you for that wonderful, Preeti Vasudevan, is just beautiful work. Love your explaining process. And you know, Preeti is brilliant. I mean, she also really thinks out of the box, does such extraordinary things for kids, for her own work, she works with Yo-Yo Ma, I mean, you know, and so has actually Hema and her daughter Kritika. They've worked with these amazing artists who are willing to come and join you, but who are absolutely world icons. And personally, I think you guys, you know, people like Preeti, that video she did for Works in Process, it puts her in a different league. I mean, you know, when you see something like that. So anyway, I just...
you said somebody wanted to see Interrupted. You know, only the trailer is on YouTube, but there is a festival, FITS 2020, which is going to be showing the entire online Interrupted in the next couple of days. I think they've already had 1 or 2 showings, but 3 are still pending.
Do you know what it's called?
What I'll do is I'll send the link to Kate, and then Kate can send it.
Because I can put it on Facebook and I can put it on the same.
It's the Sibiu International Arts Festival, for which we have performed 2 years ago, and this year they are doing this wonderful thing by putting works online, and that's where Interrupted is.
Fantastic. Well, it's 12:58 and I need to know from Brian and Gabi, am I supposed to wrap up? They are not there, so we'll keep going until they tell us to stop. Barkha Patel is a young dancer here who's very, very, as you know her, very, very dynamic, very, very one. And the lovely thing is the younger people are now not being told to shut up because they have interesting things to say. And Sonali, is it Sonali Skandan who asked, you talked about inward and outward exploration inspired by your gurus. Can you talk about how these explorations have possibly helped you visualize your work? Because I think, Barkat, for her to talk about the rhythms would be difficult in this short time, but just very quickly, if you can, it was a Priya who had asked about the Bollywood Kathak, and now this is...
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Yeah,
Brian said that you could have some more questions from the panelists.
Okay, good, great.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I asked the...
Okay, so you talked about, Sonali said, and I think it's Sonali Sandan, but I don't know which Sonali. You talked about inward and outward exploration inspired by your gurus. Can you talk about how those explorations have possibly helped you visualize your work?
I think to approach a work with vulnerability, because going inward and outward, you realize that you are a speck. And that vulnerability helps you understand having doubts, questioning yourself. I prefer to start from a place of not knowing rather than knowing. And I think all this probably happened because you saw the enormity of when you go out and the enormity of when you go in. The space and the time is infinite. So I think these are one of that there is, for this process to happen, there has to be, how do I say, a great churning, immersion without shortcuts. So it's this constant delving, constant questioning, constant intention, asking what is the intention, and having this vulnerability that maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's all going to be not right. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to falter. That's how you learn, and it's that's what life is about. So I think this Siegler perspective of the enlarged and the minute helps you to have this wonder constantly.
One more. I think this Deeps is Deepsika Chatterjee. She teaches theatre design at Hunter and is the director of the IAAC Erasing Borders Dance Festival at the moment. She said it was great you mentioned design. Scholar Royona Mitra has written about how you had rejected the use of dupatta in Kathak. As a design scholar, I am curious now to know how you embrace design and materiality in your artistic work and wider work.
Well, there are multiple questions. So the dupatta question is a separate issue. I think I'm a storyteller. I Kathak kahe so Kathak. I narrate stories. And I want to narrate these stories which are not unidimensional, but multidimensional. I would like the process of the dance, of the experience of music, of space and design in terms of the space and the light design to be multi-textured and a simultaneous exploration. So I approach design, whether it is for costume or light or stage or music or the choreography or with my dancers, to try and find, it's not one interpreting the other, but to find, go on a journey together. So it's a textured feel. That one moment is textured. It's not interpreting each other, but the concept is being transformed into design, into poetry, into dance, into lights. It's the work that is being transformed rather than interpreted. And to try and have this simultaneous journey. I don't know whether I've answered your question. And
I have to just address the people who have asked for some hand gestures and this, that, and the other. There's lots and lots of stuff online that give you these kind of elements. But I wanted to really, really say how happy it is to have the poet Aditi Mangaldas. I know she calls herself a choreographer dancer, but the poetry of your speaking, yes, sweetheart, and of what you produce, of your being, I really bow to it. Thank you so, so very much for doing this. I miss you. I wish I could hug you. From all of us, I know everyone wants to send you.
Thank you, Rajika. You know, I would like to end this by saying that you have been so wonderful to the arts community as a whole, but even to me, because at times you scold me like an elder sister, and I'm like petrified. But there is so much warmth in you. There's so much you have helped us more often, so many times, to bring us over there, and you have personally helped us, and your immense intelligence and your warmth that shines through, and this it's wonderful, and thank you. And I really look up to you as an elder sister, and I would hope that you would just say, shut up, Aditi, you're wrong here. And I say, oh, okay.
I do that to people.
Yes.
People online will attest to that.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's going to be more material that I know the lovely Kate is going to put on to the site. There will also be, for those of you who have friends who are not, who could not make it, or for whatever reason, because it's an awkward time, there are people who are, she's going to put on a lot of stuff and material, and a recording of this will be up on the WMI site. And if they're not asking for it, but I support them, and I want this institution to go viral across the world, can you even just sending a little bit tells them that you care, that there are people out there who really, really, it's a way of saying thank you. So please, WMI, worldmusicinstitute.org.
Thank you so much, Rajika, for these great words of closure, and Aditi as well for joining us. What an inspired conversation, and what an honor to have both of you and be able to present this, even though it's not the life experience that we had planned, but we know there will be other opportunities, and we thank everybody from around the world actually who joined us for today's presentation, for being with us, and we hope to see you all again soon. And as I said, tomorrow you will receive the email which will have all of the links, which will also have the recording of this session and with the additional materials. So thank you, and please come as well to our website at worldmusicinstitute.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me, and thank you Brian and Rajika and Gabi and Kate for inviting me, and thank you World Music Institute.
And if you can look at the questions, there are many questions from amazing dancers like Pallavi Degbekar, Sunita Mukhi, Sheila Mehta, Michael Brody. I mean, they're interesting. And hey, we've got email.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Thank you. Are we offline now?
Thank you.
Are we off?